There's a story circulating on the web and social media that's getting a lot of attention right now. Florida Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, a Democrat, says that in a phone call to the widow of a soldier recently killed in an ambush in Niger, President Trump said the soldier, quote, knew what he was signed up for. The White House vehemently denies that the president made that comment to the widow, but the flap over it brings us to a question for our guest, author and family therapist, Dr. Linda Mintle. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hi.
So this is a situation, that everyone has to deal with, though, not just the president, but we all have people in our circles who have experienced a loss, sometimes unexpected, in all kinds of circumstances. What is on your list in terms of what should you avoid saying to someone who has recently experienced a loss in your attempt to console them?
Yeah, so it's a tough one for most people because most people are very uncomfortable when there's loss and they don't know what to say, and it's an awkward situation for people. And as someone who's been on the other end of that, where my brother was killed in the military and we did have to have somebody come to our home and tell us that he had died, it is very difficult for the person delivering that news. So I think we need to think about that. But the things you don't want to say are things like, I know how you feel, because people are right away thinking, no, you have no idea what I feel. It's not your son or your daughter or whoever it is. You really don't. You certainly don't want to minimize the loss. I think one of the most difficult things, Heather, is when people say things that are spiritual sometimes, like, God won't give you more than you can handle. And you're feeling at that moment, this is more than I can handle at the moment, because it's so, traumatic to hear that someone's been killed or someone has died. So I think we have to be really careful not to say things that would either minimize the loss for the person, act like it's not that big of a deal, and telling people to move on or you'll get through this. Again, timing-wise, it's not a good thing to say.
Right, and we know with grief that people really experience it differently. If I'm correct, it can go in all stages and sequences for people.
Well, one of the issues is whatever has been in your background with grief too. So there are people that have never experienced even a minimal loss, and they hear something traumatic, and it just throws you like you've never experienced. Other people, sometimes what happens with loss is you've had a loss and it triggers even more feelings from other times in your life where you maybe have felt out of control or helpless or hopeless or some other feeling. So you're right, people do experience grief differently.
So in these circumstances, when we have someone in our circle who we do want to encourage and let them know that we care for them, what are some good things to say in the aftermath of a death or a loss?
So the best thing is your presence, just your physical presence, sitting with somebody, maybe putting your hand on their shoulder, sitting with them, allowing them to cry, allowing them to feel whatever they're feeling at that time, and not trying to manipulate the conversation a certain way. The best thing is to simply say, I am so sorry for the loss of, and then it's always good to use the name of the person, to be very personable about who that person is, rather than I'm just sorry for your loss, which sounds a little bit glib. But if you add the name and you say something about the relationship of that person, and then certainly people in the military, it's always good to say, we are so thankful for your son or your father's or whoever it is service. That person is a patriot and will be remembered as a patriot. So, acknowledging the sacrifice that somebody has gone through to help us all stay free is also a good thing.
All right. Well, those are great words, Dr. Linda Mintle. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.